Spoiler warning! The series that we are talking about today is absolutely best experienced without any prior knowledge as to what may or may not occur. If you had any interest in this series prior to clicking on this video, then it is my humble recommendation that you stop and watch the series before continuing. There will be streaming links in the description, and the series is available on DVD and Blu-ray from your favorite anime retailer, as it has been licensed and released by Sentai Filmworks. Now, as you decide and truly make up your mind as to whether or not you want to go into this series spoiled against my recommendation, then this is the perfect time to let you know that this video is sponsored by Bushiroad. Bushiroad is promoting the music-focused anime D4DJ First Mix, a series about a group of high school girls looking to become DJs. The series is directed by Seiji Mizushima, famous for their work directing the original 2003 adaptation of Fullmetal Alchemist, as well as the popular Mobile Suit Gundam 00. Both shows that we have praised quite highly here on this channel. The first episode of D4DJ First Mix will be available to watch for free on YouTube starting October 22nd, with further episodes being released as time goes by, all of which featuring high-quality 3D animated concert scenes with every single episode. There will also be a rhythm game tie-in that is scheduled to be released in 2021, so look out for that. There will be, of course, links in the description for you to follow up on this if you're interested and feel so inclined to check out. Thank you very much to Bushiroad for their sponsorship. Well now, that should be more than enough time. There's no going back anymore. It's time to stop talking about things that are more upbeat. Ladies, gentlemen, and others, my name is Arcada, and today, on Glass Reflection, a look at the 100% slice-of-life anime high school series known as School Live. Let's jam. Gakkougurashi, or School Live, or School Live if you want to pronounce it that way too, is an anime from 2015 produced by Studio Lerche and based on the original material by Norimitsu Kaiho. It follows the everyday school lives of 4 young Japanese girls who have, as these shows tend to do, created their own school club to have fun in. They do cool things like sleeping on school grounds, eating emergency rations and spaghetti for breakfast, reading Stephen King, and having a perfectly normal high school life. Our main character is the young Yuki, a bit of a scatterbrain who is constantly late for class, which is made worse by the fact that she sleeps in class to the annoyance of her teacher, and spends much of the first episode trying to track down her club's pet dog, who is aimlessly running around the school and disturbing all of the classes currently in session. It's a good thing that Yuki is such a dedicated student, however. So dedicated, in fact, that she's the kind of person who would create a delusion that everything in her life was perfectly fine and normal while the world crumbled around her. If you haven't left the video by this point in fear of spoilers like I did warn, this is seriously the point of no return. So, every cute girls doing cute things show likes to now have some kind of gimmick or quirk that sets them apart from others in the genre. In Gakkougurashi's case, that quirk is placing the setting of the show during a zombie apocalypse. The main characters have successfully barricaded themselves off in the upper floors of their high school, and despite the circumstances that they find themselves in, are trying to make the best of it. Yuki is the only character that's living the delusion of a happy school life. Her fellow clubmates, Kurumi, Yuri, and Miki, are fully aware of their situation, but allow Yuki to continue living in the dream world. Mostly because since she's not dealing with the frightening reality that they find themselves in, she's a perfect morale booster for the rest of the club. It's not necessarily the way that most people would go about dealing with her coping mechanisms, but it beats trying to force reality on her and then just have her be a crying mess in the corner for months. I actually want to commend the series for being able to, for the most part, keep the tropes that you would expect from both a zombie apocalypse series and a traditional school-based slice-of-life series. There are many moments of tension as they deal with their own survival, interspersed with the more light-hearted moments of trying to keep Yuki happy. But of course, the series also likes to help me continue my theory that a spoonful of moe helps the tragedy go down. it tries its best to keep up the facade. Even just looking at the localized release, you can see that great pains were put to keep the happy, smiling lives of these girls intact, helped along by the very vague yet somewhat accurate episode titles. The Beginning, Field Trip, Vacation Day. All of these titles are correct, but again, the show has a zombie apocalypse. And a very good one, I might add. Even though it's not a specific genre of horror that is used regularly in anime. Well, at least not in a way that's played straight. I wouldn't call the zombies in Tokyo Ghoul zombies, though they share many undead similarities. Shows like Cabaneri contain zombies as its main fodder enemy, but the series lacks anything that I'd constitute as traditional horror. Zombieland Saga, despite having zombies in the name and starring a group of them, is far more like a slice of life series itself than even this show here, when you really think about it, which just leaves things like High School of the Dead and, well, yeah. One of the best parts of this melding of genres that School Live is able to do is that it keeps the core of both genres and has them play out in tandem in a way that actually works. I can confidently say that this is a slice of life series. I can also confidently say that it's a zombie survival series. The existence of tropes from one genre does not negate the other. It could have, if done poorly, but that's not the case here because the writing, barring maybe one episode, clearly knows how it wants to balance the elements. Unlike a show such as Decadence that just tried to combine genres and ended up losing sight of what it might have been trying to accomplish and just calling it a day after following so many common tropes it wasn't even funny. It helps that the slice of life genre is one that's very easy to emulate. Probably why the genre was so oversaturated for nearly a decade. Just have cute girls doing cute things in something that can be vaguely described as an everyday scenario. That's it! This is something that the characters are able to do regularly, even if half of it is a delusion for one of them. And then you have the zombie aspects, and every zombie story just has a few simple rules that you need to abide by. Separate yourself, save your resources, do not get bit, but if you do, either succumb to the virus or trust in your friends to do the right thing. But hey, pool party! There are certain things with the story here, though, that I do have to question. Elements that stop the story from being god tier in its telling of events. Some emphasis is placed on just how eerily lucky our protagonists are to have gone to a school that is designed for people to live in it long term. It has solar panels, its own generators, and water purifiers, even enough food supplies so that they don't need to constantly scavenge the wastelands. It's really a bit too convenient for my liking. Because, like, if this school was designed as a fallout shelter or a zombie shelter, then I would have imagined that there would have been people in the know, perhaps the principal at least, who would have also been able to survive the initial onslaught of this plague. The fact that there is an entire emergency shelter in the school's basement that not only do the girls not initially know about, but find to be more or less empty, is again far too convenient. But I understand that this convenience is unfortunately necessary to further the core plot of the show's mission. If these conveniences did not occur, then the slice of life aspects that the series wants to lean on and showcase would not be narratively possible, or at least so much more difficult to make believable. So the realism here is something that you kind of have to sacrifice in order to enjoy the series fully. But does it end in a satisfying way? Well, again, spoilers, but it does. Just not in a way that I'm completely happy with. Some of the plot twists in the final episodes, again, lean heavily on coincidence to produce the show's desired outcome, and thankfully, the series decides that its slice of life aspects outweigh its survival horror leanings in this regard. You have to understand that because this show wants to keep this level of slice of life happiness, it means that there is a hard limit on just how traumatizing things can get. You can't have characters start to massively distrust one another, cause infighting over a lack of resources, or to honestly just come to terms with very hard life or death situations without also then expecting them to have tea time in an hour. There would be a massive disconnect that would never work in a satisfying way. This is not a series that will continually beat you over the head with a shovel or make you want to curl up and die in a ball of sadness. But on the flip side as well, when the final credits roll, we have to realize that a proper conclusion was not something we were ever really gonna get, unless, you know, they all died. We don't know how or why this apocalypse started, or what the girls plan to do after their quote-unquote graduation from high school, so all we can really do is attempt to enjoy the series for what it is. A brief look into what would happen if you combine two completely unrelated genres and hope for the best. Now for some additional thoughts. The dub of the series is passable, which, to be perfectly honest, is not something that I was expecting to say going into it. I've stated my opinion before that there are very few English voice actresses, in my mind, that can nail the moe voice, as the norm usually has every character sounding far older than they actually look. Now, this is a general problem with the moe designs, because even though we know that they're all high school age, and some of them have bodies far more mature than even that, their faces all look like little girls. And then to have older voices coming out of those young faces has always been a disconnect for me. Thankfully, without naming names, out of respect, the main cast of the dub does their best with what they have, and since two of them are already on my shortlist for actually having done moe well in the past, it did make for an enjoyable dub. Some people might have more problems with it than I, but hey, that's what the sub is for. The animation is also able to, thankfully, nail the two different feelings that the show needed as well. Similar to other shows like Gakkougurashi that did like things, the character designs are cute enough to align with the traditional slice-of-life moments while not being so undetailed as to not also fit within the survival horror setting of other scenes. The visual direction is also freaking on point. One of the reasons why I was, or at least I feel that I was a bit heavy-handed at the start of this video about watching this series before watching this video, was because how it handles its first episode is just a masterstroke. It's easily one of the better aspects of the series, which is depressing just for how easily that can get ruined by knowing the show's eventual premise. Ultimately, I did know the show's twist going into it. It's what the series has become well known for, even to people who have never watched it. So it's not like the series blew me away with its M. Night Shyamalan-esque plot twist at the end of episode 1, but beyond that moment, you have seen most of the surprises that the show has in store for you. All in all, the series is a fairly enjoyable romp, and something that I found pleasure in watching, but can fully admit that if you don't find the idea of watching a slice-of-life series in a zombie apocalypse appealing, then this series really has nothing better to offer you. As such, with all of that in mind, I would like to present Gakkougurashi with the recommendation to buy it. I do believe that it is worth the watch, and there are probably many people as curious as I was to actually see how this series plays with its premise. And I can't say that I was disappointed with the result. I did toy with the idea of giving the series a stream recommendation, but honestly, how I've determined whether something should be a stream or a buy is by how impressed I'd be to go to your house and see a thing on your shelf. In this case, I would see School Live and think, ah, I see you are a weeb of culture as well. So at the very least, I will finish with saying that it is worth your time, but we'll let you, on your own, decide if it's a series that you want on your shelf or not. For alternate anime recommendations, I cannot, in good conscience, start with anything but the pinnacle of horror and moe combinations, that of course being Higurashi no Nakukoro ni. It is a series that goes to much darker places than this series, but they are similar in how they use cuteness and lighthearted scenes to brighten the mood, even if Higurashi just uses that to go even darker than before. I know Higurashi has a new series that is currently airing at the time of this video, but as I have determined that that new series is a sequel and not a remake, as it was originally and confusingly advertised, please go and watch the original series first before going and watching the 2020 series. You'll thank me later. Second recommendation goes to another Moe Apocalypse series, this time from 2017 with Girls' Last Tour. This one is far more similar to today's series, as while the dark, haunting moments are there, the series likes to focus far more on the characters and how they interact and deal with the world, rather than any particular trauma that the characters face. I'll have links down below for anyone who is interested in watching these series, and between them, you should hopefully find something to your liking. Lastly, a very special thank you to my patrons, who not only support my work in general, but also allow me to do videos like this, where I can easily talk about shows that I am passionate about, instead of only sticking with the bigger blockbusters every single video. I do love and appreciate you all. Specifically though, as I like to do, I want to give particular shoutouts to patrons Rune Jacobson, Ryfen Bonaparte, Siri Yamako, Walgo221, Calhoun Boy, Hector Montemayor, and Richard Emile Bradley for being especially awesome. You guys are great. And until next time, ladies, gentlemen, and others, watch more anime and stay frosty.